Hey, foul is the word for a lot of
But
them.
what I tell people though,
Yes.
understand the historical facts on how this country was created, and I tell you this is come full circle. The reason why this is like this, because who came over here? A bunch of riffraffs,
Yeah.
nobodies, and a few of them they was ballers, but they wasn't big ballers as the ones back at their crib. They come over here, they take a risk, they become big ass ballers. You feel what I'm saying? Actually, they become bigger ballers than the ones back at home because they come into a new land. So you had a bunch of riffraffs, con artists and everything, and kidnappers move here and built this country. Oh, killers too. I forgot that part. You know what I'm saying? That came to this country and took advantage of other nationalities that helped build this country up. You know, one in particular, but we about to get a touch on that soon. But
Yeah, and we can just slide into the issue in California going on. And, the Democrats dropped the ball.
yeah,
Nothing new.
yep.
California slavery reparations bill basically unraveled last week, and California state lawmakers are blaming Governor Newsom for the stalling of the key slavery reparations bills on the final day of legislation sessions. So it looks like Democratic Senator Stephen Bradford of Inglewood backed the state's multi-year effort to repair harms from institutional racism and put together a proposal for a new state reparations agency. And this would mean the changes would mean the state would instead authorize the further study of the issue. So basically, there were two bills that were drafted proposing a $6 million to California State University to study how to implement recommendations from the state's task force on reparations. So this is $6 million basically to put together a task force on how to best disperse the money in reparations. That was one of the bills. So that was one of the bills they couldn't figure out. And it
was figured out.
Oh, yeah.
It was figured out. They had it. It was ready to go. But we always got some niggas always want to be that what you call them, turncoats.
Yeah.
Turncoats. Because I was just saying, like, how you enter a passage in there saying you also offer reparation to illegal immigrants?
Yeah.
How does that even make sense? Because mind you, all right, people, let's get back to the word. What is reparation? Reparations is supposed to be geared towards former black family slaves, descendants from slavery, to receive payment for basically the work that they built in this country. Because United States of America would not be USA, one of the most dominant countries on this planet, if it wasn't for the black bodies. Let's just call it what it is. The black bodies that built this country is the reason why the United States, the reason why that White House is built, the reason why a lot of your patents that goes on in this country that makes your life comfortable because of black minds. Black minds. So we talking about black people that was former slaves supposed to have received 40 acres and a mule. That was the original agreement. Didn't receive that. So now, reparations. You know why people don't want to talk about reparations, especially when you hear white folks talk about it? Because the one thing they're talking about, well, I ain't had nothing to do with it. My ancestors, blah, blah, blah,
But you're in the country that was...
Exactly. And then what people not understand, that every other nationality received reparations for atrocities that happened to them. The Jews received it when the Nazis did what they did to their culture and stuff like that. The Japanese received their reparations when we was in World War II and they was in concentration camps here in the United States. The American Indians, to a degree, received some type of reparations that was geared towards them when they was wrongly moved off their lands, even down to the slave owners that owned the slaves. They receive reparations for owning slaves. Like make that make sense.
Everybody got paid off of slavery but us.
Besides the black folks. So now when it comes time to play the black folks, you don't want to pay. We got all the goddamn excuses that comes about. Remember, people, Your lives are the way they are because of those black bodies. Those black bodies that was hung. Those black bodies that was shot. Those black bodies that was mutilated just because of the color of their skin. See, that's the dirty historical fact that a lot of white Americans doesn't even know nothing about and don't want to talk about. That's why you have all these culture wars that goes on in these schools and everything, such as going down in Florida beginning of this year when DeSantis going out his way trying to upend black history. The one thing you cannot erase is historical facts that goes on in this country. You wonder why that this country is in division the way it is? Because you don't want to recognize the black eye that it has created. You don't want to recognize the harm that you had caused to the people who was enslaved to build this country against their own will. These people, my ancestors, was forced to do labor and was not paid properly for. These people, my ancestors, was killed just because of the color of their skin. So when we talk about reparations, all we want is what's right. That's it. Nobody didn't say you had to give total payment. Reparations can be given in a lot of ways.
No, we need cash payments.
Of course, you can do cash payments, but there's other things that can be.
Nah, just cash.
But you already know that's not going to happen.
I mean, hey, that's what we want.
I understand that because you already know that if you take the wage of a slave, an enslaved person, I think it was like 8 cents. You take that, and they did the math on this, especially when you add the interest and all that shit. You don't want that. You don't want that. Those type of numbers they can't talk about. You know why? Because a large portion of us would be up there or that 1% easily. So like the companies like J.P. Morgan, they originally made their money by selling insurance on slaves. Because remember, slaves were known as property. They wasn't people. They wasn't known as people. They wasn't treated as people. They was treated as property. And companies like J.P. Morgan sold insurance to the slave owners to protect their property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so these two bills, it looks like it looks like the main issue is they're saying Gavin Newsom's team modified the bills without the consent of the Black Caucus members, but they're also saying it looks like Stephen Bradford confirmed that there was authenticity of the draft and said it came from Newsom's administration. And it also looks like he told reporters the governor's office had cited cost pressures during a year in which the state had to trim billions from its budget. So they're thinking that the draft changes remove the bill's core purpose, which was creating a new Freedmen's Affair agency regarding reparations. So there's a lot of discord going on the Democratic side, and some people are saying this is done on purpose.
Of course,
self-sabotage.
Of course, because they don't want it. They don't want it to go through. Because the one thing for sure, whoever be the first state to pass reparations, you best believe there's going to be other states following that suit, and there's going to be lawsuits that come about to follow up. So that's the reason why it's self-sabotage, and all you got to do is follow the ones who proposed this language to be put in this bill. Follow the ones who supporting this language to be put in the bill, and them the ones that's getting paid. They're getting paid by the special interest group for it not to go through. They do not want to go through. What special interest group might be involved in this? Well, if you do some research, especially up in L.A. County politics, you got the most powerful, prominent Latino city councilmen and women that's up in there. They're trying to push out the black people as well as the white ones on top of that. You feel what I'm saying? The white ones is pretty much just standing back and letting everybody else do the work for them. You feel what I'm saying? So here we go. So black folks, and then now you got the few black folks that's in the Democratic Party over there. They're sitting here inserting stuff inside the bill, knowing that it's not going to pass, knowing that the people's not going to agree to. All those, the one who propose it, they're taking money. The ones that agreeing upon on it, they're taking money. And if I was you, if they're in your district, they're in your county, vote their asses out.
Yeah, so this is the main reason why voting is important locally. I would say voting locally is more important than the federal level and voting for the president, although I recommend, voting for the local officials and making sure the federal officials earn your vote. But,
Like I said, the local officials turn into federal officials because a lot of your local officials do go to the federal's level, like as your representatives, your House of Representatives, as well as your senators. That is all due to local voting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can get State Bill, what is this, 1331, which is the one that was created for the new state funds for reparations, and you also had Senate Bill 1403, which would have established a state agency to oversee those efforts and determine who would be eligible. So those are the two bills that the Democrats were, pardon my French, bullshit on. Mm-hmm. They should have sent Sugar Free in there. He would have been asking them, why you bull.
Now, mind you, these are California Democratic Party.
Yeah. So, hey, it's all the same countryside.
Like I said, I'm going to say this again to all my black and brown voters. If you want your vote to be strong and powerful, detach yourself from these parties. Plain and simple. Because if you automatically a Republican, if you automatically a Democrat, they don't have to talk to you. They'll talk at you because they automatically assume that you're going to vote for them due to by affiliation.
Yes.
Now, when you become an independent, right, they got to talk to you. Because remember, when it gets to the federal level, they need a coalition of people. Even down to a local level, you still need a coalition of people to help win. Now, follow me where I'm going with this. So now, if you detach yourself from either party and you become an independent, now your voting becomes a major bargaining chip. Now you get to demand certain things that you want that will affect you, your family, your community, and surrounding areas. As a black man, my vote becomes twice as powerful than if I was a Republican or if I was a Democrat. As a black woman, your vote becomes 3 times as powerful. So if you want your voice to be heard, detach yourself from these parties. Make they asses work. Because what it is now, it's just like everybody just lazy. They want to throw a couple of zingers out there, get you all riled up. Because remember, last week I said they get paid off of division.
Exactly.
They get money off of that. So us battling each other, us going against each other, the top 1% getting paid off of that because they want that. So if you want an actual change, a positive change, become an independent voter. So now they got to talk to you. Now you get to ask questions, and they have to listen.
They ain't got no choice but to listen.
Exactly. So detach yourself from these parties. Become an independent. Like I said, a black man vote, a brown man vote becomes twice as strong. A black woman vote, a brown woman vote becomes 3 times as strong. Mm-hmm. Oh, and a little side note.
Yes.
I know this off subject right quick, but remember, all those who had a problem with affirmative action, who it affect more than anything? What nationality / gender that affirmative action helped the most?
Oh, it helped white women the most.
Thank you. So all you white women who got those positions that you gotten, who got the pay raise you gotten, thanks to affirmative action. Mm-hmm. Now let's move on.